Hey guys, Danner here. Just going to walk you through our assignment for today, and this will be a real short video that just kind of walks through some of the basic expectations. So, if you go into your classwork, there will be this tab under Unit 2 Voting Rights, History of Close Elections. That's what we're going to look at today. So, just remember what we've looked at before is the barriers to voting historically and today. And as always, the question for the unit, and actually I'm going to change that while we speak. Not voting rights, it's what is a vote worth? Keep that in mind because that idea of worth is going to come up to you. Like, what do you think that word worth means? So it could be like, the monetary value, because there was a time where people were being forced to pay to vote. It could be is it worth the effort that it took to fight for the right to vote, or even just the effort to go to actually vote today? Here, we're going to look at, is my vote really worth anything? I mean, there's over 100 million votes cast for president every 4 years, and what does one vote matter? So the purpose of today is really to get you to think about what one vote can be worth. So if you go to this tab, History of Close Elections, and open the doc, I'll have it right here. I'll pull up this nice little ugly Google Doc that I created, but all it is a series of questions. It's going to look through just the history of elections in our country and how some of them have been incredibly close, from the presidential election all the way down to like the city level elections. So I'm not going to walk through the answers to everything, but I just want to give you a few things to look for. So first off, we're going to look at this idea of the Electoral College and the popular vote. That's the very first question, or the first two questions really focus on the Electoral College and the popular vote. You can look this up, but I also just posted this video, and it'll be with the assignment, but it's called Does Your Vote Count? The Electoral College Explained. It's like a 5-minute video. It really just goes through the value of the Electoral College, why it was created, why it still exists, and why there's a fight as to whether it should exist nowadays. So that's what the second question is who do you think should decide president, the Electoral College or the popular vote? And tell me why. So based on that video and anything you look up, this second question is all your opinion. So make sure you use your opinion. Here, I'd like to use your actual words because it's very easy to copy and paste stuff in here. Try not to. Just tell me, one sentence each. The Electoral College is this. The popular vote is this. Done. Now, the rest of this is going to take a little bit of Google searching, but a lot of it is just numbers and results of elections. But I want you to look them up again to determine how some elections have been very close. So the first one's going to ask, how many presidents have lost the popular vote but still won the presidency? Meaning they got fewer votes overall, but they won the Electoral College. How many times has that happened? And I'll give you a hint. The most recent example was Donald Trump. He lost the popular vote, but he became president 4 years ago. Next, so once you've looked that up, just look at the history of how many presidents have lost the popular vote and won the presidency. Again, Donald Trump was the most recent, but not the only one to have that happen to. Then once you go back to 2000, which was the time before that, where most recently the president lost the popular vote but won the presidency. And go to the state of Florida. This is very easy because the state of Florida in 2000, and it's in the history books. It was a big deal. It'll be a very easy Google search to find how many votes decided the presidential election in Florida. So in the state of Florida, so many votes were cast, and the difference between the two main candidates, George W. Bush and Al Gore, how many votes decided who won the state of Florida? And then out of how many votes were cast. So let's say, and this isn't the answer, but let's say that there were, 10 million votes cast, and it was decided by 100 votes. It was more than that, but you get the idea. So that's what I'm looking for here. And then, so that's all presidential elections, and there's a lot of other cases of very close votes deciding presidential elections, or at least states within presidential elections. But now we're going to go back down to the state of Kentucky. If you don't know this, when you're running for president, for governor, for senator, you have to win your party's nomination. So if you're a Republican, you have to run against a bunch of other Republicans to be voted as the Republican nominee for governor, for senator, for president. That's why, like, Joe Biden, he had to beat out like Bernie Sanders and like his running mate Kamala Harris and a few others, or a lot of others, to become the Democratic nominee for president. Well, it happened in Kentucky too. So 5 years ago, in the race for governor for Kentucky, people had to run for their party's nomination. So in the Republican Party, there was a very, 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 very close race to determine who was going to be the Republican candidate for governor. So I want you to look up the Republican primary for governor in Kentucky in 2015, not 19. That was the most recent time, but in 2015, and tell me how many votes decided that primary, because it was very, very, very few. I'll give you a hint. It was less than 100 votes decided it, and that was across the entire state of Kentucky. So then who ended up winning that? Who became the candidate for governor, the Republican candidate? And did he end up winning the election for governor? So that's the next question. Next, I went a little bit more recently. This was just less than a year ago. How many votes decided the election for governor of Kentucky in 2019? It was quite a few more than this answer, but you're going to see it's still a very close race when you think of how many votes, because I want you to know how many votes were counted. So how many votes decided the election and how many votes were counted, and you're going to see it was a relatively small number. And then the last thing I'm going to ask you to look up, and I actually gave you the link because this gets a little bit harder to find, but local elections like city council, mayor, school board. I want you to see how close some of these elections are. I want you to find how many elections in there that were decided by 500 votes or less and 100 votes or less. So this link right here will take you to an old Courier Journal article about the 2018, the most recent city elections. So you see some of this was a little bit bigger stuff, United States House, all these, it wasn't very close for like U.S. House. But if you get into like Jefferson County, and the city of Louisville elections, you're going to see much, much closer elections. So like, for example, city council or metro council, that's people who like, work with the governor or with the mayor to make laws and decide things that are going on in the city. The city is divided into different districts, like neighborhoods, but they're pretty large districts. And so, like, for example, I'll give you this example. District 13, there were about just under 7,000 votes cast. It was decided by 60 votes. Very, very close election. If you go down, just keep scrolling down, look through some of these results, and you're going to see some very, very, very close elections. In the city of Anchorage, that was out in the East End. But again, the school board, this was decided by, what's that, about 80, 85 votes. Council member, it was decided by 33 votes. Audubon Park Council, 60 votes. Here, City of Bancroft Commissioner, 10 votes. So I just want you to see some of these local elections, because these are the things that are going to make a big difference. Here, 2 votes. City of Douglas Hills Council member, 2 votes decided it. 6 votes. So I just want you to look at some of these local elections, because these are the things that, depending on where you live, are going to make a big difference in your life. So these are the people who make things that affect your neighborhoods, depending on where you live. So, Shively, Waterston Park, Butch, West Butch, just those areas. Those are just different neighborhoods, and they're very, these are the people who kind of like decide what goes on in those neighborhoods. So that's the last question. I want you to find some elections that were decided by 500 votes or less, 100 votes or less. Just give a few examples there. And then finally, this is your opinion. How do you think that a group of high school students like you guys can change the results of an election, or impact or make a difference in the results of an election? Because, how many hundreds of students are going to walk out of Iroquois High School at voting age? think about how much of a difference you can make if you really are informed about what's on the ballot. So keep that in mind. Keep the greater um, idea of this idea of like what is a vote worth in mind. Um, and yeah, because we're going to be answering that question on Thursday. So go ahead and look into those results, get that posted, get that turned in, and I will see everybody later.